Hello everyone, welcome to Apti Academy for Civil Services. This is a video on daily news and editorial analysis, which I'll be covering from two important newspapers, that is the Hindu and Indian Express. So the most important news and editorial of the day would be discussed in this session. Let's get started with today's topic list. Today is 25th of December. The first topic is monetary policy is financially inclusive. This is a statement coming from the Deputy RBI Governor. Second, poll panel to visit UP next week. The third is 8 integrated Ayush hospital that has been opened in Uttar Pradesh. The second last is possible repercussion for the GST hike on textile. A statement coming from the chief financial advisor of the West Bengal chief minister. Right? And the last is an editorial, simple way to better count the Omicron in India. So we'll see, understand the counting methodology and how these methodology would help to provide a roadmap for future protections in the new variant, right? Apart from this, at the end of this video, there would be some MCQ based questions. These questions would be based on current affairs that will help you for the upcoming prelims examination. And 25th of December is celebrated as Merry Christmas. So I wish all my aspirants a very Merry Christmas. And if you are new to our channel, do not forget to subscribe Apti Academy for Civil Service on YouTube. If you like this video, if you find this video informative and helpful, do not forget to press a like button. And before I start, just to tell you that we have launched Isgr New App. This is version 2.0, which will give you a lot more facilities when you use, right? So this is a one-step solutions to a lot more resources for civil services examination. You can check the description link of this video from where you can directly download this app. Now, starting with the first news, that is monetary policy is financially inclusive. This statement is coming from the Deputy Governor of RBI, right? So we'll see what Mr. Michael De Patra has to say. And this particular topic is important for General Studies Paper 3, Inclusive Growth and Issues Arising from it. So many a times they give you an insight that what exactly is happening and how the monetary policy is going to be inclusive in terms of overall development. So the Reserve Bank of India Deputy Governor has recently said कि जो इंडिया की मॉनेटरी पॉलिसी है इट्स फाइनेंशियली इंक्लूसिव है बाय इट्स डिजाइन एंड द बेनिफिट ऑफ सच स्ट्रेटजी वुड बी विजिबल इन फ्यूचर सो ही वांटेड टू से दैट दिस इज अ लॉन्ग टर्म strategy that would invariably will call for more inclusiveness in society as well as in the economy. Although ये empirically देखा गया that there has been two way of relationship between the monetary policy as well as the financial inclusion, right? And financial inclusion की बात करें, it has also dampened the inflations and output volatility. But if you talk about the present inflation, we have seen mostly inflation coming from the foods, right? So food में inflation काफी ज़्यादा high है. I'll tell you the figure also. Precisely talking about the financial inclusion, this appears to be the lowest in rural or agriculture dependent areas हैं. Even food की बात करें, that remain as a main source of income. What has happened? That food inflation is high, which is definitely impacting a lot more people and their livelihood options. And recent work traditions की अगर बात करें, they are working on the dualistic modes in the presence of financial frictions है उस केस में, right? So एक example पे यहाँ बताई गई है जिस तरह से financial excluded क्रेडिट कंस्ट्रेंट कंज्यूमर्स हैं उसकी जो फुल एक्सेस फाइनेंशियल में वो अभी भी कम है फाइनेंशियल और जो फ्लेक्सिबिलिटी है दैट डिटरमाइन द फूड प्राइसेस व्हिच इज क्रिटिकल इन इन्फ्लुएंसिंग द रियल वेजेस ऑल्दो अगर मनरेगा की बात करें इन टर्म्स ऑफ मनरेगा द एलोकेशंस फ्रॉम द गवर्नमेंट वाज नॉट दैट मच इवन इट वाज रिड्यूस्ड सो पीपल हु एक्चुअली वर्क फ्रॉम मनरेगा हैव नॉट गॉट देयर मनी आउट सो इस तरह के बहुत सारे प्रॉब्लम्स है जो एग्रीगेटेड डिमांड और सप्लाई को भी इम्पैक्ट कर रहे हैं इवन people who are dependent on their daily wages are not getting sufficient amount of money and even the food supply so that they can sustain their life. So financial inclusion in terms of promoting sustainability call for more robust approach. Financial inclusion in terms of बात करें rural area के this is lowest, agriculture dependent and the food remain the main source of income. This is what I have told you in the beginning. और इंडिया में अगर फूड की बात करें फूड अकाउंट्स फॉर 46% ऑफ CPI, राइट, along with the highest share globally. So this is what the share is, and further CPI combines the rural index as well as the urban index in the share of food, which is higher in the rural compared to basically overall बात करें और सिर्फ rural की बात करें तो rural में 54.2%. And even the latest data which has come for inflation that have accounted that food inflation is higher compared to many other components, right? So we have to understand that we need to control the prices of food items, specifically the edible oils and the essential item like sugar, oils, and even if you talk about the other grains like wheat and rice, that has to be in a controlled price. The responsibility is assigned to monetary policy because these are something which is being regulated by the government of India. So that they have to make a pace, they have to make a roadmap where the potential and inflation are aligned in a target, right? It should go in a symmetry. It is not like that कि potential बहुत ज़्यादा बढ़ रही है और inflation भी उसके साथ बढ़ रही है, right? We have to control it, and at the same time जो financial included consumer है, they are able to smooth consumption in the face stock because their access to saving, जो उनकी अपनी saving है, जो deposits हैं, created from the formal financial institutions and at the event of income losses, right? So at the time government has not provided any adequate measures जहाँ पे normal household के लिए एक saving available हो. What they have to do, they have to be only dependent on their saving, the deposits they are carrying with their bank, right? So some provisions of these things can also be there because अभी जब कोरोना के टाइम में गवर्नमेंट ने गरीब कल्याण रोजगार योजना चलाई थी, उस टाइम पे बहुत सारे लोगों को फूड affordable price but even free of cost was given, and that has continued for a number of basically कुछ और times के लिए उसको बढ़ा दी गई है. So we'll see how that will continue because it is very important to maintain the price, control the inflation for the poor people so that they can sustain their life. Now, poll panel to visit UP next week, important for General Studies paper 2, Parliament, state legislation, function, structure, even जो RPA के topics हैं, representation of people acts, वहाँ पे काफ़ी important. So what has been the development? इलाहाबाद हाई कोर्ट ने रिक्वेस्ट किया इलेक्शन कमीशन से कि अगर पॉसिबल हो तो उत्तर प्रदेश के जो असेंबली इलेक्शंस हैं उनको पोस्टपोन्ड किया जाए बिकॉज ऑफ द न्यू वेरिएंट दैट इज ओमिक्रॉन, राइट? So the Chief Election Commission has replied to the Allahabad High Court. He actually not replied. He said that the Election Commission people or team would be visiting the state to review the ground situation. Right after the review, they would finally decide whether they have to continue or postpone the elections. So the Election Commission has visited Punjab and Goa recently on the similar reviews, and it is set to visit the UP for next week. What is the power that is vested with the Election Commission in terms of conducting supersedence and overall election procedures in our country? So Election Commission की बात करें, they have reiterated that Election Commission measures for making the COVID safe elections हो, इसकी कोशिश Election Commission कर रही है, and even there is a provision by the Constitution under the Representation of People Act 1951 which call for more robust power to the Election Commissions. And according to the section 153 of Representation of People Act, the Election Commission, for a reason which is considered to be sufficient, can extend the completing of any election by making necessary amendment to notification. तो ये power है Election Commission के पास कि वो अगर ज़रूरत आए तो जो टाइम है, जो डेडलाइन है या फिर जो कंडक्ट ऑफ एक्चुअल इलेक्शंस है उनको आगे पीछे कर सकती है, राइट? सो दिस इज अंडर द सेक्शन 153 ऑफ द आरपी एक्ट. And Article 324, which is there in our Indian constitutions, call for superintendence, directions, control, and conduct of election in our country, right? So, Election Commission, a powerful body, which is responsible for the conduct of election in our country. Now, बिहार प्रेसिडेंट की बात की गई है. इस तरह के एग्जाम्पल्स प्रपोजल्स बिहार गवर्नमेंट की तरफ से भी रखी गई थी, जहाँ पे कुछ पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज ने डिमांड किया था कि फर्स्ट पोल ऑफ असेंबली इलेक्शंस बिकॉज ऑफ पेंडेमिक शुड बी एक्सटेंडेड, बट इट हैज एक्चुअली नॉट हैपेंड. द इलेक्शन वाज कंडक्टेड ऑन दैट वेरी डे, बट कुछ समय के बाद जब लॉकडाउन लगी पूरे कंट्री में, देन द एग्जैक्ट डेट वाज शिफ्टेड, इट वाज कैंसल्ड और यू कैन से इट वाज पोस्टपोन्ड. However, जब बाई इलेक्शंस हुई है 18 राज्यसभा सीट्स की, that was deferred in March as the country was under the lockdown. So some elections that was conducted in Bihar were under the guideline that was provided by the government. जो procedures हैं, जो standard operating procedure है जिसको SOP कहते हैं, उनके थ्रू काम की गई. बट जब लॉकडाउन हुई थी उस टाइम पे इलेक्शन कमीशन ने इलेक्शंस को कंडक्ट नहीं किया. So we have to see, possibly it is being anticipated the elections जो हैं यूपी के, गोवा के और पंजाब के इलेक्शंस हो सकते हैं. Election are supposed to be concluded before the term the legislature is completing. This is a provision in our constitution. अगर किसी भी legislative assembly की टाइम खत्म हो रही है उससे पहले election commission को एडवांस में अपनी प्रिपरेशन करनी होती है. And the constitution provide the option of extending the duration of state legislature beyond 5-year term इन सर्टेन स्पेशल सर्कमस्टांसेस। वो स्पेशल सर्कमस्टांसेस क्या होती है? जब पूरे देश में प्रोक्लेमेशन ऑफ इमरजेंसी हो, उस पीरियड में 1 साल तक की एक्सटेंशन मिल सकती है। आई थिंक मोस्ट ऑफ यू मस्ट हैव रेड दीज पॉइंट्स from the static portion of Lakshmikant. If not, do check it out. These points are really very important for your prelims examination. In case the election commission cannot hold the election, it would inform the center and the state, and it could be placed under the precedent rule, right? This is how the exact procedure is all about in terms of conducting the elections. And if not, they can recommend the president to impose a precedent rule in particular states, right? Now, 8 integrated Ayush hospital has been opened in Uttar Pradesh, something which is important for general studies paper 2, government policies and intervention for the development of various sectors and issues arising from its implementation. So, the Ministry of Ayush, or you can say the Minister of Ayush, has recently inaugurated 50-bed integrated Ayush hospital in the state of Uttar Pradesh, और अयोध्या में एक आयुर्वेदिक इंस्टीट्यूट बनाने की भी बात कही गई है. So, the Ayush Ministry has released almost 553.36 crore rupees that is allocated to the state by the center government under the National Ayush Mission. So National Ayush Mission is important for prelims examination. क्या क्या इसके रोड मैप है, मेंस में भी इस तरह के जो important points है वो incorporate कर सकते हैं. Make sure you see this all points that is relevant in terms of National Ayush Mission. So according to the Ayush Ministry, जो नए आयुष हॉस्पिटल है, they are located in Deoria, कौशाम्बी, सोनभद्र, लखनऊ, कानपुर, संत कबीर नगर, कानपुर देहात, ललितपुर. They were built with a cost of 72 crore rupees, right? And the 500-bed Ayush hospital and wellness center were inaugurated in the different part of the states, right? Mostly when election are there, government tend to speed up these inauguration process. These are some of the political hacks and techniques that is being used by the political parties. The foundation stone were laid down by the 650 bedded hospital that were coming up in Unnao, Sarvasti, Hardodi, Gorakhpur, Sambal and Mirzapur. So these are the states. These names are not important, specifically if you're appearing for state PCS or Uttar Pradesh State Public Service Commission examination. These are important for you, right? Now coming to the other news, that is possible repercussion of GST hikes on textile. This particular news is important for general studies paper 3, Indian economy and issues related to planning, mobilization, resource growth and development. So a statement coming from the chief advisor of West Bengal chief minister, the principal chief economic advisor, and he has asked central government not to increase the GST on several textile products, right? 12% तक बढ़ाने की बात की गई है. Earlier it was 5%, right? So the principal chief economic advisor Amit Mitra has said government, they have requested, they have just make them aware कि अगर इस तरह की चीजें बढ़ती हैं तो कुछ 15 लाख लोगों की जॉब लॉस होगी और 1 लाख यूनिट बंद हो सकते हैं. These are the repercussion that we can see if the amount is continue to with 12% of this is, right? Let's see what government is doing after this request. And the chief advisor has also requested the Union Finance Ministry to reverse the decision, and it would also adversely affect the GST collection as a whole. And इन्होंने कंडेम किया गवर्नमेंट के डिसीजन को, जहाँ पे GST on several textile products were unilaterally increased without discussion with the forum of the GST Council. So they want a consensus should be built with the GST Council if any increase is there. हर एक कैटेगरीज के लिए अलग अलग स्लैब बनाई है गवर्नमेंट ने, उसी परसेंटेज पे टैक्स को लिया जाता है हर एक कैटेगरीज में. बट फॉर दिस टेक्सटाइल सेक्टर 5% was sufficient. Now the government is increasing it to 12%, which is considered not good and healthy for economy in terms of textile products. Now latest tax slabs की अगर बात करें जो फाइबर प्रोडक्ट्स पे हैं, the Central Board of Indirect Taxes and Customs on November 18 have notified 12% of the GST rate on the man-made fiber, and even the man-made fiber yarn है या fabrics हैं उन पे 12% तक की बातें कही हैं. And present the rate of man-made fiber yarn is 18%, man-made में yarn में और fabric में 12% है, उसके बाद जो normal fabrics हैं उनमें only 5% है, right? So this is how the tax slab is going. What government is trying to do, ये इसको यूनिफॉर्म करके तीनों टैक्स को यूनिफॉर्म करके 12% करने की बात कही गई है. So this is something which will impact lot more units, as well as it will also impact the employability of lot more people who is actually working with this industries. Now inverted duty structure की बात की गई है, how this would work. तो सेंटर ने एम किया है टू करेक्ट इन्वर्टेड ड्यूटी स्ट्रक्चर विद द मूव। और ये जो इन्वर्टेड ड्यूटी स्ट्रक्चर होगी व्हेन अराइजेस with the tax or output, the final product are lower than the tax input, creating an inverse accumulation of ये जो input tax credit है in most cases that has to be refunded, right? और inverted duty structure की बात करें, this implies to a stream of revenue outflow जहाँ पे government prompt करती है and they look into the duty structure as well, right? So it is essentially very important to consider all the fact, and at the same time during this COVID-19, this textile sector, which mostly come under the part of MSME, that is micro, small and medium enterprises, ये already काफ़ी ज़्यादा impact हुई है कोविड की वजह से। तो कुछ ऐसे टैक्स रेट जो और इनको इम्पैक्ट करे उससे बचना चाहिए, उससे एग्जेम्पशंस देनी चाहिए इस सेक्टर्स को। सो लेट्स सी व्हाट गवर्नमेंट इज फाइनली डिसाइडिंग, एंड मोस्ट थिंग वुड बी क्लियर इन द अपकमिंग बजट सेशंस आल्सो। Now, concerned, the principal chief advisor to the West Bengal chief minister has noted that cotton price has gone up to 70%, right? और जहाँ apparel sector की बात करें, they are witnessing an inflation of around 20 to 25%, and country की जो aggregated wholesale price inflation है that stands at 14.5%, right? So this is the ground reality which is already higher, right? और इसके बाद भी अगर 12% की slab होती है, so that is a point of concern. Also, the unemployment has expanded up to 10.48% in this sector. So these all things are needed to taken into consideration before the government actually finalizes things. Now the other news, this is an editorial, simple ways to better counts of Omicron in India, something which is important for General Studies paper 2. This is related to issues related to development and management of health. सो अगर बात करें लेटेस्ट 3 वीक्स में जिस तरह से देखी गई है, जो इम्पॉसिबल स्लो बिल्डिंग ऑफ टेंशंस हैं ओमिक्रॉन को लेकर के वो बढ़ी हैं। इवन द सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट हैज़ गिवन नोटिफिकेशंस टू ऑल द स्टेट्स कि जहाँ पे पॉसिबल हो नाइट कर्फ्यू लगाने की बात की गई है, एंड इवन they have also suggested that there should be a bracket, there should be a deadline for the timing that should be there, right? तो जिस तरह से इससे पहले कोविड के टाइम में हर एक जोन पे डिवाइड की गई थी, राइट, विच जोन इज मोस्ट वनरेबल, अकॉर्डिंगली द गवर्नमेंट वांट इट शुड बी डन एट दिस पॉइंट ऑफ टाइम आल्सो, राइट? And the news is from the European countries not good because there is a rise in the cases, right? There's a rise in the cases, right? And every day national news has been reported in case of number that is slowly rising. So we have seen the cases are rising in our country, and even talking about the western countries, that is pretty higher compared to India. अभी तक इंडिया में सिर्फ 200 से 250 केसेस रिपोर्ट किए गए हैं. This is what the government has to quote, but the ground reality is pretty different. So it is there in the indication that the actual number of the cases might be increasing in our country. Now let's into the other aspect of this editorial that talks about the causes of error, right? So the reported case of Omicron infection, अगर उसकी genomic surveillance की बात करें, that is mounted by Indian SARS-CoV Genomics Consortium, जहाँ पे genomic जो sequencing उसको complex बताया गया, right? And almost 38 laboratories across the country have been ability to sequence the virus as in their infectious stage. And as a result, a small fraction of infection individual contribute to virus sampling as well as sequencing. The number that were reported by media and the number that is very small. But अभी भी Omicron variant को लेकर के जो concern है, जो actual data है, we do not know whether the contact tracing is also being taking place. So whatever number that is coming in media make an error when it's report that the entire case of the country is all about, right? So we have to be concerned about the number, and even it is predominantly more important that we should be focusing upon precaution and preventary measures rather than reporting the numbers. So calculations की अगर बात करें, the Union Ministry of Health and Family Welfare reports that in December, India performed almost 12 lakh RT-PCR tests daily, right? And about 0.5 of the tests were positive. तो पूरी जो टेस्ट की गई उसमें पॉजिटिविटी सिर्फ 0.5% ही देखी गई. So in this 2 weeks, in December की अगर बात करें, 1.7 करोड़ टेस्ट were performed nationally, और उसमें से 80,000 people were tested positive during at the time. The number of genome sequencing by the committee is perhaps 1%. That is what they have to quote in their accuracy. And this means that the incidence of Omicron infection would be somewhere smaller. See, वेरियर की इन्फेक्शन रेट तो हाई है, बट जो लिथैलिटी है, जो सीवियरिटी है इस वैक्सीन जो वायरस की, वो काफ़ी कम है. that this is only evident what we have seen in the western countries. जो present में जो trend चल रही है इस virus को लेकर के उसके बारे में बात है. If it comes to India and if it is reaching to a peak, it might be different because the mutation is taking place. Improving the estimates की बात की गई. The agencies, while handling the data, and the scientists who run the statistical model, they have to able to refine the estimates where the range is certainly uncertain, and even the number of genome sequences that are infected by the travelers और separate जो इनको committee है उनको अपनी data भी देखनी होगी. Even the sample that is being connected, it's much easier that you might know to estimate the actual number of the cases and the severity. And the government and its agencies are taking public with such detail about the data. So this is again very important in terms of the data collections, the vaccination process that is ongoing in our country, and the utmost priority that is also highlighted by the WHO is to increase the vaccination by double, right? तो इंडिया में ऐसे वैक्सीन बढ़ाने की जरूरत है, खास करके जो डबल डोजेस वैक्सीन है, we need to improve and increase it. And if the Omicron is spreading faster than Delta variant, which variant which was basically responsible for the second COVID wave, इंडिया में जब second COVID wave आई थी तो डेल्टा वेरिएंट वर मोस्टली रेलेवेंट और इस वेरिएंट की सबसे ज़्यादा डोमिनेंस देखी गई थी, राइट? तो अगर इस बार की बात करें कि फ्रैक्शन ऑफ ओमिक्रॉन केसेस वुड इंक्रीज, its output competes the Delta variant in infecting the people, which is pretty true. And this happens to be the another part of the world, and it could also happen here also. जो पूरे ग्लोबली अगर बात करें जो वेस्टर्न कंट्रीज है, अभी देखा गया ओमिक्रॉन के जो केसेस हैं वो बहुत हाई रेट से, बट इवन इन कंट्री लाइक चाइना दे हैव इम्पोज्ड national lockdown in some cities, right? And given the number and the availability of data which is there with the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, it is possible that the estimate of health risks of the COVID-19 is important, and the precaution is that we need to mask up, we need to maintain social distancing and stay home whenever possible. This is a festive time, even in the New Year's Eve is like people used to gather. ये सारी चीज़ों से जो गैदरिंग है, मास गैदरिंग है, उसे हमें रोकने की ज़रूरत है, राइट? So this is what the details were there in the editorial, and we have launched our prelims test series for 2022. You can avail the 60 high quality test. I have provided a dedicated link in the description section of this video from where you can directly purchase this course, right? And moving to the MCQ questions of the day, before I proceed, just to tell you the answers of yesterday questions. For first question, the correct option is C. For second question, also the correct option is C. Today's MCQ, Pradhan Mantri Vande Yojana, the government maternity benefit scheme is under which among the following ministry, right? So many a times the ministry become important. जितने भी government के important schemes हैं, उन सारे schemes को आप देख ले हर एक ministry wise, right? We have the IS gazetted magazine where you can find the details also. The second question, the Chauri Chaura incident took place in which of the following city? Lucknow, Gorakhpur, Ranchi and Hyderabad. So if you know the correct answer, do let me know, or you can practice this also in your home, which will give you the foundation for the historical and history and the conceptual questions also, right? So this was all about the daily news and editorial analysis followed by the MCQ questions. If you have any other concern, do let me know. I'll be more than happy to assist you. For time being, I'm signing off. Thank you so much for watching this video.